Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Horror Stories. I know many of you use these episodes to fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the episodes. Story 1. It was my first year in college. I had just finished unpacking all my stuff in my room and my family had just left. Later that same day, my roommate arrived, and I knew right away that this guy was the most socially awkward person I had ever met. I introduced myself as Dan, extending my arm for a handshake. He stopped, looked at my arm as if he didn't understand at first, then laughed and said, "Oh," and gave me a rather limp handshake. I had to ask for his name since he didn't tell me when we greeted each other. His name was Dale. I tried to make small talk, but he only answered my questions with yes or no, laughing or smiling awkwardly from time to time. After a few minutes, we were both sitting on our beds with our laptops, not speaking to each other. I was annoyed and planned to request a roommate change. Anyone would be better than Dale, I thought. Dale was really a weird guy, but I soon discovered that he was much more than that. I met some other guys on my floor and they seemed nice, which was good. I returned to my dorm after exploring the campus on the first night and found Dale exactly in the same position as when I left him. I said, "How's it going, Dale?" And he didn't respond as I expected. It was 9:30 p.m. and I had nothing else to do, so I turned off the lamp on my side of the room and went to sleep. However, I didn't fall asleep right away. Dale was on his laptop until 3 a.m., and when he finally shut his laptop, I quickly fell asleep. But I woke up within the hour. The blinds in our room had been opened, and the moonlight now entering the room made everything visible, including Dale sitting on the edge of his bed staring at me. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and said, "Dale, what the hell are you doing?" He whispered sorry and lay down. The next morning I woke up and found that Dale had already gotten up. It felt like the first time he had left the room. It was Saturday, the first Saturday of the year, which meant orientation and all the campus festivities. During orientation, as my group was walking through the school's gardens, I heard a couple of students in front of me say, "What's that guy doing there?" I saw who they were referring to. It was Dale, literally sitting in the dirt behind a bush, rubbing a tree's bark with his hand. The orientation leader didn't notice him. Otherwise, I'm sure she would have said something. I just walked by without saying anything, eventually telling the two guys I had overheard that he was my roommate, as a way to start a conversation and maybe make some friends. They apologized to me. None of us really knew whether it was appropriate to laugh or not, but we did. I made friends with those two guys, and we made plans to meet up that night. I also found out when I returned to my dorm that the school had found another roommate for me. Things seemed to be quickly looking up. I left the room that night to meet up with the two guys I had met, and when I returned, Dale was sitting in the desk chair facing the door. I said, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" He said nothing, very dryly. I sat on my bed and opened my laptop and realized I had forgotten to lock it. I also noticed that all my emails had been opened, emails I was pretty sure I had not read, and a bunch of my folders had been opened. Dale must have snooped on my laptop. When I asked him if he had done it, he replied no very loudly, a half second after I finished my question. I could read him like a book. This creepy guy was literally checking my computer while I was out. I knew he had done it, but I didn't pursue it. I was ready to go to bed, so while I was looking for my pajamas, I felt that my clothes had been moved as well. I knew I would be out of there forever the next day, so I said nothing. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of a zipper. I sat up and saw Dale on the floor going through my bag. I turned on the lamp this time to confront him about it. He acted as if he didn't know what I was talking about, saying, "I think you have my toothbrush by mistake." It was the closest to wit he had shown to that point. Still, I knew he was lying and knew something was off with him, so I couldn't get physical with him. The next day, I met my new roommate in the same building and everything went well. Sunday night, after having a decent conversation with my roommate, who wasn't a social genius but was much better than Dale, we both turned off our lights and went to sleep. For the third night in a row, I woke up at a weird hour of the night to a strange noise. It was a clicking noise, not constant, but I heard it at least twice every 30 seconds. I got up hoping to find something innocent, like a heavy bag pressing on a weak plank or even a mouse. But as I inspected the room, I realized that the sound actually came from the other side of the door. The nightlight in the common area was always on, so when I looked through the peephole, I could see the scalp of the person who was on the other side of our door. They were looking down, so I couldn't see their face. But now that I was paying attention, I realized that the small clicking noises actually came from the doorknob. I was sure the person was trying to unlock the door. I dialed the campus police department number and they arrived in less than 5 minutes to the common room. And only then did I feel it was safe to open the door. I found the officers with Dale handcuffed. I had a feeling it was him. I told them everything, that he was my ex-roommate who had been checking my things. So I changed dorms only to find him trying to break into my new dorm room. They took him away. I don't know what happened to him after that, but I never saw him again. He was either suspended for the semester or expelled. I spent the rest of my years at college like anyone else, however. The nightmare experience I had with Dale still pops into my head from time to time. Story 2. I studied at Binghamton University for 2 years and quickly formed a large group of friends. We used to go out every weekend. One Friday night in October, when my group didn't have big plans, I decided to head out with 2 close friends to the school's natural area near the lake. There was a small clearing across the lake, convenient for bonfires since it was quite hidden from the school's view and campus security. Sometimes, though not very often, students came here to smoke marijuana, drink, and consume other types of drugs. It was a relatively unknown spot to most on campus, and we liked that. That night we just brought several beers, started a bonfire, and chatted in what we at the time called a bro talk. As the night progressed, time seemed to pass faster as the alcohol began to take effect. Eventually, we were all laughing so hard that one of my friends ended up rolling on the ground covered in leaves. That's when my other friend stopped laughing and said, "Shh." We all became attentive and listened to the crunching of leaves and branches in the distance. We threw our bottles into the lake since we were all under 21, and it wasn't uncommon for campus police to roam the woods on weekends looking for students using drugs. We stored the rest of the beers in a backpack. I was moderately drunk, so my paranoia was higher than usual, probably the same for my friends. The bonfire exposed us to anyone passing through the forest. But the truth is, this place was so unknown and so far from the campus that it was rare to find someone else so deep in the woods. It sounded like it was just one person in the distance. The sound of a branch breaking not too far from us scared us all. None of us were really confrontational in our group, so we lacked that person who would have the confidence to stand up and yell at whoever was there. Instead, we all stayed silent, silently shushing each other. We heard what seemed to be someone or something circling around our small camp, or at least walking in a C shape around it. It literally started to feel like we were in the Blair Witch Project movie, because those close distance sounds, like branches breaking and leaves crunching, kept reverberating towards our camp. At first we laughed it off, but soon I was terrified thinking about who or what it could be. Suddenly a loud thump made all 3 of us jump. At first I didn't understand, though I saw what caused the sound. It took me a few seconds to process the fact that a branch had been thrown into the center of our small bonfire site. One of my friends ran off, while my other friend and I stayed looking at each other, half laughing, half worried. We didn't know if this was some kind of joke or not. Then my friend let out a scream of pain as he was hit in the face by another branch. I grabbed the backpack, helped my friend up from the ground, and we ran towards our dorm. When we reached the road that separates the nature reserve from our dorm, we stopped to catch our breath. But whoever was there proved they were following us when we heard footsteps approaching the road. We continued running towards the dorm, and when we got to our floor, we found our other friend already in his room. We looked from his room window towards the woods. There was someone walking back and forth near the woods, and every time a car passed, they ducked back into the woods. Eventually, whoever it was went back into the woods, never to be seen by us again. We continued our drinking session in the dorm room, and within 10 minutes we were all laughing about the situation. It wasn't until the next morning that we all realized how terrifying the encounter actually had been. We never went back into the woods after dark from then on. Story 3, this happened during the first week of classes in my freshman year at the University of Iowa. I was just starting to get comfortable with my roommate. He was determined to join a fraternity, and rush week would start the following week, but the parties would begin from Thursday of the first week. My roommate didn't want to go alone because it would be harder to meet people that way, so he wanted me to accompany him. I happily agreed to go with him, although I had no interest in joining a fraternity. Still, I was planning to go to parties. After all, I was attending a university known for them. My roommate wanted to go to a fraternity party on Thursday, and then to parties at different fraternity houses on Friday and Saturday. That Thursday night, we headed to what was probably one of the lesser-known fraternities. I'm pretty sure it was an unofficial one. But his logic for attending was to have a backup fraternity in case the more sought-after ones didn't offer him a spot. The fraternity house was really far from campus, in a poorer area downtown. We arrived at a corner house, and if it weren't for the loud music and cars parked everywhere, we would never have guessed this house was a fraternity house. It literally looked like they had settled for the first house they found. We knocked on the door and were immediately greeted by a short, chubby guy in a white t-shirt holding a red cup. His shirt had sweat stains under the arms and on the belly area. He told us to come in. The party itself was in a horribly dimly lit room with probably 50 guys crammed into the living room. It was unbearably hot there. To make matters worse, I think I saw maybe 2 girls at the whole party, neither of them remotely attractive. I gave the party a good 20 minutes talking to one stranger after another, all giving off an antisocial vibe. Finally, I motioned to my roommate to get ready to leave, but a large group of guys near the door made us decide to wait a bit longer to avoid the awkwardness of leaving early. I continued drinking the cheap beers they were serving. I think I had about 5 cups before I started feeling the effects. A burly guy approached me with a small bottle in his hand and passed it to me, smiling and saying that this would really get me drunk. I laughed out of politeness and thanked him, waiting for him to leave, but he stayed staring at me as if he expected me to drink it. So I did. It was maybe 2 shots of some kind of strong liquor. The guy then began talking to me, and every time I hinted that I wanted to move away, he tried to engage me more in this one-sided conversation. Things started to get really blurry pretty soon. I remember suddenly feeling dizzy, and the room seemed to darken. That was the last thing I remember before waking up in a dark room, lying on a bed. I could hear the sound of muffled music behind closed doors, so I knew I was still in the fraternity house. It was a very dark room, yet I could still make out some furniture in the room and a small closet door. Not much else. But even over the loud music, I heard the sound of a plastic bag being crushed from the closet, as if someone had stepped on it by mistake. I ran out of that room and down the stairs back to the crowded living room. I found my roommate and pushed him out of the front door, passing a group of guys who were still standing in a circle by it. During the car ride back to campus, I told my roommate that I had been drugged. He was about to call the police, but I told him it would be foolish and that it wouldn't make sense. Then my roommate asked me an awkward question, if I had been taken advantage of. I didn't feel any pain and my clothes were all in place, so I assumed not. When I checked the time, I realized that I had only been unconscious maybe 10 minutes before waking up. Whatever the guy gave me must have been a dud or something. Thank God. That was my college experience of attending an underground and ghetto fraternity party, and it remains the most terrifying experience of my life. Story 4. During the first semester of my sophomore year, I had a single room located at the corner of the floor, somewhat isolated from the rest of the rooms as it was in its own little section. You had to turn a corner to even see the door. It was nice because I could talk to friends on my floor, have people over to my room, and still have privacy when it was time to do homework or go to sleep. A few weeks after the semester started, while I was studying for a biology exam, the silence was broken by a noise. It took me a moment to realize that it was a faint tapping on the door. It was so soft that I almost didn't hear it. I yelled, "Come in," but the door didn't open, so I got up to open it. There was no one there. I walked around the corner to look down the hallway. No one. Someone was obviously messing with me. I went back to my bed and continued studying, this time leaving the door open. No one came back. The next night, a few minutes after I turned off my bedroom lamp to go to bed, the tapping on the door returned. Only this time it was much louder, more of a banging sound. I called out, "Who is it?" And again the banging stopped and no one responded. I quickly got out of bed and opened the door to find my little private corridor empty of people. I ran the 10 feet from my door to the corner to look down the main hallway of the floor. No one. The next morning I asked some of the other guys in the dorm if they had been messing with me. Everyone said no. The following night I woke up after having slept for 3 hours. Someone was knocking on my door again, this time louder than ever. I hesitated whether to open the door or not, but with a burst of courage, I got up and opened it. There was no one there as I expected, but this time I ran at full speed down the small corridor that isolated my room, and when I turned the corner, I saw the back of someone disappearing behind the far corner on the opposite side of the hallway. I ran as fast as I could down the hallway, and upon turning the next corner where I saw the person a few seconds earlier, I saw a door at the end of the hallway closing. It wasn't a room, it was a bathroom. I felt ready to confront whoever this prankster was, so I pushed the bathroom door hard. The light was off. I turned it on expecting to see someone hidden there, but saw no one. My first instinct was to check the 2 bathroom stalls, which were closed. I got down on my knees and looked under the stalls. 2 heavy black boots could be seen from beneath one of the stall doors. I took a deep breath and pushed the stall open. I was confused. There were the boots sitting on the floor, but no person wearing them. Then I heard a chilling laugh. It was not feminine or childlike. It was the kind of laugh I could only imagine belonged to an old madman. For some reason, my confidence vanished and I was terrified. Therefore, I ran back to my room and locked the door. I got back into bed and started texting all the friends I had, of course. They were all asleep. The knocking occurred once more that night. I ignored it. It lasted about 30 seconds before whoever it was finally gave up. I talked to everyone on my floor the next day. No one else heard any knocking, and everyone swore they weren't playing pranks. Everyone seemed sincere. I don't know why this person chose to harass me or who this person was. Judging by the boots and the laugh I heard, it was an older man, and that disturbs me.